The initiative, has been going for over 20 years now and is led really by the growers in conjunction with the researchers working together on Fusarium head blight, and I think it's brought together a consortium of interested parties.
The very first step and most important step, especially if you're in Ohio where you raise winter wheat, is to select the best resistant variety. That's the first strategy to start with. And if you can plant that best resistant variety into a field that's rotated away from a host crop of scab, that's going to help.
The second thing that I would think about when that seed goes in the soil is those cultural practices. Certainly the Fusarium fungus can survive on wheat, but one of its biggest hosts is corn, so crop rotation comes into play here. So
if you've been continuous corn, then you might not want to do wheat after it. You might want to just do a full season soybean and wait until you've been out of corn a little bit maybe to go to wheat.
The next influential factor is going to be whether we use a fungicide or not. And using the right fungicide at the right time is also an important part of that. So we're going to favor triazole fungicides and over strobilurine fungicides or other modes of action in that particular case.
What you don't want to use for Fusarium head blight is the QOIs, the strobilurins class. Those, if applied at the boot stage or beyond, can actually increase the dawn levels, which in essence will defeat the purpose of a fungicide in that class. The last thing with fungicide, we've been traditionally relying on the DMIs, but we do have a new fungicide from SDHI class that we as a Scab initiative is starting to look at a little bit more intensely.
What we do know is, based on the data, that if you go out and make an application when your wheat is about 50% flowering, or that Feeks 1051, so you get the anthers that are popping out of the middle of the head. If you can make an application any time between the start of flowering and say 6 days after that, that's going to be your sweet spot.
So if we're moving forward, a forward-facing nozzle, maybe 30 to 40% drop from horizontal is probably ideal. And then another good thing, especially for slower moving rigs, let's say less than 6 miles an hour or so, a double a nozzle is really good.
They're not silver bullets. You cannot go out and, if that's the only thing you're doing to manage Fusarium head blight, that's probably not going to be enough, especially in a year where we have conditions that are very favorable for the disease. So, we can see efficacy of 40%, 50% maybe. And you start thinking about it, that's not enough on its own when we have the conditions that are going to be very favorable, especially on maybe a susceptible variety.
We certainly have made use of the risk models to make our consultants and our growers aware of particularly intense risk from infection in certain areas of the state in certain years where the weather aligns.
You can feel that they're largely empty. There's a few kernels in there, but many of those small spikelets are empty with no kernel.
State where we grow primarily soft red winterly resistant and in some cases moderately susceptible varieties, and combining that with a timely triazole spray
So we're much farther ahead today than we were in the past, which is ultimately has resulted in, in years where we would suspect or normally would have seen greater Fusarium head blight infection and losses. We're not quite seeing the same levels that we would have seen. Again, showing that we're making progress.